A painful feeling of unrequited love, typically for a former lover, often leads to unbalanced or erratic behavior. I never fully understood why Fiona named her restaurant Tabanca, but then again, I had only known her for about 4 years. She came to Grenada from Trinidad, initially directing a crew of men clearing thornbush from a steep hillside when I first met her. Like anyone on the island, I greeted her with a simple hello as I passed by. She looked up, wiping sweat from her brow under the hot sun, and asked, "What are you up to?" I replied, "I'm going to build a restaurant here with the best view on the island." She was right about that. The view was stunning. The great beach of Grand Anse stretched before us, its surf crashing against the coconut palms, and in the distance, we could see the port of St. George's, the capital of Grenada. It was a quaint village, with red roofs, whitewashed walls, a yacht club to one side, and the towering central mountains forming a perfect backdrop. From the very beginning, she decided to call the place Tabanca. Over the next 2.5 years, as she worked tirelessly to build the restaurant, complete with a ramp down to the beach, our friendship slowly developed. Whenever my wife and I visited the island, we would stop by. I saw the thornbush replaced by lush gardens, the trellised patio become a popular spot for sipping rum punches, and the food transform from good to superb, arguably the best in Grenada, if not the entire Caribbean. However, an underlying sadness seemed to cling to Fiona, a sadness that never seemed to leave her. What was this Tabanca that haunted her? The hurricane season had just passed, and no storms were threatening Grenada during the first ocean race of the season. At the end of November, Lucy and I flew down from Toronto, escaping just hours before a major snowstorm closed the airport. Meredith, having sailed his ocean-going sloop from Virgin Gorda with just one crew member, a man who had joined him solely for the trip, was to participate in the St. George's Regatta. Lucy and I would crew for him in the races. We met at the yacht club, and Meredith, looking fit and sun-kissed from his long sail, appeared to be recovering from the trauma of his divorce, in which his ex-wife had taken everything from him, except for his yacht, which was not in Canada at the time. After his divorce, Meredith had continued working and paying alimony, but a lucky turn in the stock market gave him enough to live on his boat, no longer burdened by the need to support his ex-wife's extravagant lifestyle. The next day, the three of us had lunch at Tabanca, giving us the chance to introduce Meredith to Fiona. Over the next few days, we were busy tuning Valella, a Peterson-designed boat named after the marine animal known as the by-the-wind sailor. It was a sky-blue boat, as blue as its namesake. Lucy and I were staying at the True Blue Inn, a charming little hotel at True Blue Bay, where the owner was also participating in the regatta with his yacht, Caramba. On the first evening, Meredith, who had been moored at True Blue Bay, moved his yacht to Grand Anse, for reasons we could never fully understand. This was much less convenient for us when helping him prepare the boat. We grumbled about it, but Meredith just smiled. My main task was scrubbing the keel and removing barnacles and seaweed from the hull. Wearing scuba gear, I quickly scraped my hands raw from the barnacles. Lucy and Meredith worked on the rigging and sails. While Meredith took care of the boat's catering and supplies, he didn't leave it to my wife, who had volunteered. On Friday, the day before the regatta began, our chores were done, and Lucy and I lunched at Tabanca. We sat on the patio in the shade of the trellises, surrounded by bougainvillea, hibiscus, and flamboyant trees, and brilliant hummingbirds flitted about. We were the only customers, except for 3 men at the bar. We wore batik sundresses over our swimsuits, our eyes shaded by broad-brimmed straw hats. Below us, an iguana basked in the sun on the rocks. The sea was a vibrant blue, and across the bay at the Grenada Yacht Club, we could see more boats than usual, all gathered for the regatta. Valella was moored just below us as we waited for lunch. I was enjoying a draft beer, almost the only place on the island where it was served, while Lucy had a rum punch, one of the house specialties, named Tabancateers by Fiona. What was this Tabanca that haunted Fiona? As I idly watched the scene unfold, an armadillo poked its nose out from a crack in the rocks, sniffing the air. The Grand Anse beach was nearly deserted in the midday heat, but 2 girls strolled along hand in hand. The shorter one wore a South Seas wrap around her shoulders, a popular style among tourists, while the taller one was clad in just a bikini at the base of the ramp. Both girls stopped to put on thong sandals, and the taller one threw on an oversized t-shirt with the word Italia across the front. They sat down 3 tables away from us in the full sun and ordered pints of draft beer, large British pints, not the smaller American-sized ones. Lucy sat facing them while I was angled slightly away. 3 pints later, as we were eating lobster tails, the shorter girl in the wrap walked past our table toward the washroom. I saw Lucy glance at her, clearly surprised. "Audrey, is that a man in drag?" she asked. Lucy had always been curious about crossdressers. After all, she was married to one. I studied the retreating figure, taller than I initially thought, with muscular shoulders and a tan from the sun, no visible strap marks, large hands with short pink nails, and big feet with matching nail polish. Her short, curly hair was grizzled, and she wore discreet golden earrings, obviously not real gold. I continued to observe as she returned, with minimal makeup except around the eyes, which were mostly obscured by sunglasses. Her eyebrows were entirely plucked away, leaving only penciled lines. As she passed, Lucy greeted her with a friendly, "Hello, what a lovely wrap you're wearing." The response? No English. Lucy repeated the compliment in Italian. After all, her companion was wearing an Italia t-shirt. I tried in German, "Sehr elegant," to which Lucy added, "Very chic. Very stylish. I'm Lucy, and my husband is called Debbie." The tall woman swirled her wrap around her calves, her voice deep and unmistakably masculine. She introduced herself as Helga and returned to her table, where her friend Maya was sitting. They ordered another pint of beer, and I couldn't help but notice the dynamics between the two. "Helga must be 5 feet 9 inches, don't you think?" I asked. "She's taller than she seemed at first, which makes Maya over 6 feet. They're definitely both men." I shifted my chair to get a better view, hoping my sunglasses would conceal the fact that I was staring. Maya, too, had an Adam's apple, though she still had her natural eyebrows, slightly plucked. Her long, blonde hair was pulled up with a large pink plastic clip. Her lipstick and nail polish clashed with her accessories, coral pink lipstick that didn't match the pink hair clip and pinkish-orange nail varnish that didn't quite go with either. As I finished my lobster, 2 Nordic-looking men strolled up from the beach in t-shirts and shorts, their thong sandals on their feet. They joined Helga and Maya, kissing both women on the mouth and immediately ordering a round of beer. One of them reached behind Helga, untied the knot of her wrap, and let it fall around her waist. Helga's flat male torso was evenly tanned, and she stood up in just a bikini bottom, handing her wrap to the man who tied it around himself. Helga then grabbed a pair of shorts from her bag and slipped them on, before removing her makeup and earrings. She shrugged into a locally known bush jacket. The man who had tied the wrap around himself proceeded to comb his hair, securing it with combs on each side before starting to apply makeup. Helga handed him her earrings as she began to remove her nail polish. Meredith, who had joined us by then, was stunned, his beer untouched. Meanwhile, another newcomer stepped behind Maya and unclipped her hair. She slapped his hand away, grabbed the clip, and put her hair up again, determined to stay in her feminine form. The man shrugged, dropping his shorts to reveal a floral bikini bottom, pulled a matching top from his bag, and inserted foam pads into the top. Meredith nearly choked on his beer, and Lucy's lobster cooled rapidly. The man turned his back to Maya, who began to braid his hair and pin it atop his head. He added hoop earrings, similar to the ones Maya wore, and began applying makeup. Maya did his eyes for him and then applied artificial nails, similar to hers. Meredith finished his beer, Lucy her lobster, and then Meredith ordered a bowl of callaloo soup. The others at the table had another round of beer before leaving without eating anything. Fiona brought over the callaloo and asked, "What do you think of my floor show? Does it happen often?" I replied, "Almost every day for the last week. I don't mind cross-dressing, as you know, but I do wish they wouldn't change in public like that. Some of my regulars are protesting and threatening not to come here." Fiona asked, Are they all men? Is Maya a man too? Yes, Maya is a man. I've only seen her dressed as a man once. She's the only one who dresses mainly as a woman. The others change as you saw today. Sit down and have a drink with us, at least until the other customers arrive. Thank you. I do hope those 4 are only here for a few days. I can't imagine what will happen to my business if they stay through the tourist season, Fiona said, looking worried. Meredith touched her hand in a comforting gesture. At least they only come during the day. You don't have to deal with them during your busiest time in the evening. That night was the Commodore's ball, black tie for the men despite the heat, and long dresses for the women. Lucy wore a deep blue silk dress with gold embroidery on the bodice and had her hair styled up, though she complained about the sun and wind from the day's work. Meredith wore a white tuxedo, which I had also considered, but Lucy persuaded me to dress differently. I wore a turquoise, floor-length dress with strappy sandals and a longer evening wig. Tony Porter, our host, had reserved a table for the cruise and drove Gillian, his wife, and us to the clubhouse. Tim and Penny, his crew, along with Meredith, were to meet us there. Meredith's partner was a surprise to us all. Fiona had left her restaurant, Tabanka, on the busiest night of the week, putting it in the hands of her staff, and showed up in an elegant asymmetrical black silk gown with one bare shoulder. We dined on rubber chicken, not a patch on the wonderful food at Tabanka or at the True Blue Inn, the only other Grenadian restaurant of the same caliber. The music was from a local band, and thankfully, it wasn't a steel band, so we could actually hear each other talk. After the band finished, another group came in to play for dancing, a 4-piece combo with guitar, saxophone, keyboard, and drums. The musicians, all dressed in electric blue sequined minidresses, were our transvestite friends from the previous day. Helga played the alto sax, and Maya, with much shorter nails than she had worn at the restaurant, was on the keyboard and also provided vocals in a light tenor. They were good, no doubt about that, and it was a pleasure to dance to their music. Fiona, however, was clearly not going to get her wish. These 4 would be around all through the tourist season, performing at the main hotels and restaurants along the strip. But Fiona no longer really cared. She was planning to build a jetty at Tabanka to accommodate the Seaborne restaurant trade. Perhaps Fiona's long-standing Tabanka was finally a thing of the past. Meredith's certainly was. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for early access and exclusive content.